right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 538 podcast. As you can see, we're trying a new format today. This is a special edition of the podcast. We're trying to cover some stories and dispel any misinformation or rumors you may have heard in the community or on social media. Joining me today is Diane Garber Cardwell. She's our facility planner, and Stacia Ruby, who's our public affairs officer. Ladies, say hello to the audience.
Hello. Trying to share my little
The questions are going to get harder as we move along in the interview.
We're 100% right now.
All right. Thank you so much for coming up and talking to me for a little bit and trying out this new format. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet because I have a face made for radio, but the mask does give me a little sense of security, so I can always have a little bit of deniability.
I think that's one thing we might miss about the masks.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, oh my God, I forgot how unpleasant you are to look at.
I've noticed so many guys have grown beards.
Yeah.
Facial hair is huge right now. And
Yeah.
it's just when the masks come off, we're going to be like, oh, that's what was under there.
Question number one, which is the one on everybody's mind, mine included, is the Chillicothe VA closing?
And that's the number one question we get. And when we were talking about what we wanted veterans to know was that we're not closing. That we have to understand that what we received last week and what we shared with staff last week was recommendations only. And we understand that there's a process for, going through and understanding those things and figuring out for yourself what that means, what that looks like. And so that's why we definitely want staff to know about it so they can, maybe internally process it themselves. The same with the veterans, letting them know, hey, here's what's going to come out on Monday. We want you prepared. We want you to have facts, and we want to be able to help answer those questions for you. So, no, the VA is not closing. That is a recommendation. Along with that recommendation are many different other recommendations that support what will happen to the veterans, how veterans are going to receive their care, and things like that. So that's why we want to do this show. But it's going to be a whole year before this market assessment is approved or disapproved by the president and the Congress. And so we want to make sure that people know that this isn't something that's happening overnight. Even, once it is approved or disapproved, it's going to take some time for those recommendations to come to fruition.
Yeah.
So just, rest assured that, we're not going to be closing in the next few months, anything like that. Your health care, we're going to continue as is, providing high-quality care to our veterans and continuing to serve those veterans in our community.
So kind of like what I'm hearing from that is this is a large-scale project and report, so there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of considerations, a lot of variables that we just don't have answers to yet. So it's kind of almost like a waiting game at this point to see where we are in a year.
Right, and I just would add that even though one of the recommendations is to close the campus, it is not closing all services. So the VA is still providing services to our veterans. We know our veterans aren't going anywhere, and we will be here for them. It's just the structure in which we provide those services may look different.
So the footprint might change in the future.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. So can you provide us just a little bit of background about where this report came from, the recommendations along with it, just, a quick snapshot of kind of how we got here?
Sure. So back in 2018, Congress passed the Mission Act, and part of that Mission Act, in addition to providing care in the community, it also called for an assessment of the VA facilities across the nation. So the market assessment process began in 2018. They looked at data of all sorts across all of VA. They looked at our access. They looked at our capacity. They looked at future projections for demand. They looked at quality, cost, infrastructure status. They even looked at community data, what's available in the community. And they looked at it to determine the best networking or collaboration across all areas to provide the best service to veterans. So after the data analysis piece was finished, then their findings was sent to VA, and Secretary McDonough reviewed those findings and made a list of recommendations to send to the Air Commission. That's the list that is being published on Monday, the VA's recommendations to the Air Commission.
Got you.
Going forward, the Air Commission has a year to review the data, conduct their own public hearings, do their own analysis, and then adjust those recommendations as they deem necessary, and then send their recommendations on to the president. So this all came out of the Mission Act from 2018.
So this is not something that originated with VA. This came out of Congress, right? This was
Correct.
mandated.
Correct.
And it was for every facility in the country. Is that my understanding?
Correct.
Okay.
I think that's one of the misunderstandings that a lot of people have is they think because this news is so local and personal to us that it's just a Chillicothe VA
Sure.
recommendations. But this affects 150 plus facilities across the U.S. Every facility pretty much got a recommendation, good or bad. That's just different with every facility depending on what they saw and what they felt needed done. So not feeling like it's just Chillicothe that was pulled out and pinpointed. And as Diane mentioned, that it's a package that is going to be an all or nothing package. It's all the recommendations across the U.S. are accepted or they're all rejected. They can't pull out Chillicothe and say, we're going to accept this and reject everybody else. It's 150 plus recommendations, yes or no on all of them.
Wow. So that's why it's going to take so much time to review and come to a decision.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Correct.
a lot of information.
We've
to
spent a lot of time
process.
reviewing only our recommendations, and so I can imagine trying to review 150 plus.
So one of the questions that's been posed in the last couple of days is, could it be less than a year for an approval from Congress with these recommendations?
So the Mission Act set forth very specific timelines. The Air Commission has 1 year from the time they receive the VA's suggestions to do their analysis, and then it has to be on the president's desk in January of 2023.
Okay.
It's not impossible, but it's unlikely that will go forward in less than a year's time.
Okay. And I think Staciary touched on the all or none aspect of that. So
The one
this is
thing
a package
too-
deal.
Yeah, the
Yes.
one thing too, when you were talking about this 1 year, we're kind of in a holding pattern. So we've had a lot of staff ask this question. I think it'll pertain to veterans as well. Are we going to start seeing changes now? What's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen right now. So we're going to continue as is. And so veterans don't need to worry that, hey, I don't want to enroll at Chillicothe because they won't be there, things like that. When veterans enroll in VA healthcare, they're enrolled in VA healthcare. They're
Right.
not stuck with just a Chillicothe healthcare. So whatever our footprint looks like after this year, they're already in the system. They have healthcare they're going to continue to receive. So we're not going to stop any efforts of outreach or recruitment or enrollment. Actually with COVID, we've had to scale back a lot. Well, we're now, just as of yesterday, we're starting to take on bringing community inpatients. So we're opening that back up because we've reached, we've fallen below the 5% positivity rate. We've been at a stage 3 for long enough where we can now open up. So those are some things I hope veterans understand. We're continuing. We're going to keep growing and moving. We're going to keep doing business as we have.
Right.
And the community center opening up, community living centers opening up is just one way for us to say, hey, we're not going anywhere when it comes to taking care of our veterans.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to make huge changes to our mission when these are all just variables and questions. There's just too many
There's still
question marks
recommendations.
to know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Our mission is still to take care of our veterans.
Absolutely.
It doesn't change.
All right, so let's say worst case scenario that the campus is recommended to close and we do end up closing. Where would current veterans go for their care? How would the services be offered?
Okay. So the recommendations include a few different aspects of care. On the inpatient side, our mental health beds would be relocated to Dayton.
Okay.
So veterans that need inpatient mental health services would be referred to the Dayton VA. The CLC or nursing home level of care, those beds would be split between Dayton and a new CLC that would be built in the Circleville area.
Okay.
So veterans can still receive nursing home care CLC services. It would just be at one of those two locations.
Got you.
Here in Chillicothe, The recommendation is to close this historic campus and build a new multi-specialty CBOC in the Chillicothe area. So what that means, all CBOCs have primary care and mental health as an automatic standard. So outpatient care for primary care and mental health services would be at that new CBOC location. The multi-specialty piece of that means that we can have any number of additional specialty services at that CBOC. The planning process for a CBOC is very detailed, it's very time consuming. So because these are just recommendations at this point and they have not been approved, we have not started a planning process yet. So we can't answer exactly which specialty services will be there.
Right.
But the Columbus facility, as well as our other sister facilities in the state, are there to support us with the specialty services that we would not offer at that multi-specialty CBOC.
So if we did change our dynamic as far as functioning as a CBOC, we would be aligned under Columbus, is that correct?
So part of this recommendation is to close the Chillicothe parent facility and align all of our CBOCs under the Columbus VA. So what that means for our existing CBOCs is that they're going to stay in place. They're still going to more than likely have the same staff that they have now. It's just when they report up, they will report to the Columbus facility.
So veterans really wouldn't see a difference in their care.
They shouldn't.
And
No.
it's important to understand some of the verbiage. So CBOC is what we also refer to as a VA clinic. So the 6 clinics we have, Athens, Cambridge, Lancaster, Marietta, Portsmouth, and Wilmington. Have me a little cheat sheet right there. So I
Lovely,
didn't
right?
skip any of them.
Nice.
But, we call them VA clinics, but CBOC would stand for community-based outpatient clinic.
Right.
So that, making sure that it's referred to different ways. So when you hear that, that's what the term means.
All right, so this information is going to go public on the 14th, correct? It's going to
Yes.
be published to the Federal Register.
Yes.
I actually looked at it. Honestly, it's the first time I've ever been on that page. I looked it up last night. I'm like, let's see what's on here. There's a lot of information out there. So once this goes public and folks hear about it widespread, if there's something that veterans want to do about it, or myself as an employee, or even my neighbors, is there a recourse? Is there something that we can do to maybe change the direction of this?
So it's important to understand that locally we do not have any authority over these recommendations as moving forward. That if veterans or community have questions, Diane and I are available to answer any questions. But if there are concerns or complaints or things that you want to raise about it, that would have to at this point go to senators or congressmen.
Okay.
And so contact your senator or congressman. Get a hold of them, share with them how you feel about it, what you want done or would like to see done. Because it's in their hands now. We locally are just, going to keep doing what we do.
Right.
But anything with that?
No, that's exactly right. Reach out to your congressional folks. Share with them specifically how these recommendations will impact you. Providing them with details will be more helpful than just saying we don't want it to close. Let them know what it means to you, but don't hesitate to reach out to your VA either in terms of your health care. If there's one thing that I can say about Chillicothe after having worked at a few different sites, it is how much the staff at this facility love our veterans. And yes, in spite of the fears of the unknown, the last few days that we've been fielding questions, I would say we have received just as many concerns about our veterans and what this means to them and what losing this facility would mean to them. And that's what our employees are concerned about besides their own jobs. So just know that your VA staff are here for you. We care about you. We aren't leaving you, and we'll do whatever we can to take care of you.
We have amazing staff, and it's really shown so evidently through this. And it's just, we've always known it. I know when we're here at work, we know our staff are great. We know what kind of care they give. But sometimes other veterans don't know that. They don't have that maybe that frequent interaction and things like that. But these staff really care about what's going to happen to these veterans. And I really don't see any hiccups over the next year with how what kind of care and the quality care that our veterans are going to continue receiving.
That really speaks to their focus, and
Yes.
that's how mission driven they are. So
Yes.
that's really special. I know as an employee, I mean, it's hard not to take that personal when you hear about some outside body recommending, well, you know, it feels like your work's devalued, and you know, we spend more time here than we do with our families, so it's hard not to take that personally. But you realize it is an outside entity. It is just they are just recommendations, and that we can voice our concerns through the proper channels, and things will work out the way they need to.
You mentioned on the Federal Register how much information was on there. We wanted to make sure that staff knew first, that veterans knew first, you know, and so we could have just said, "Hey, here, go find it on the National or the Federal Register," and people would be like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
But just trying to get ahead of it and say, "Here's what we know. Let us know what questions you have." And so those are conversations we're having every day with staff. And, you know, the more the word gets out, the more conversations I'm having with veterans as they call in and ask questions. But reach out to us. That's what we're here to make sure that you understand. Use our social media sites.
Yep.
You know, we put a lot of things on social media so staff will understand, or veterans will understand what's going on, and we're going to keep you updated with that. If you have questions about something you see in the media and you don't understand it, call us, you know, clarify some of those things for you. Make sure you have the information.
And I think that transparency is really key moving forward, especially in the next year, is because, you know, when you don't have information coming in, your mind just starts going crazy with coming up with solutions or possible problems that aren't even there. So to have that information constantly coming out is huge. So it's kind of like why we're here today, to get that process started. Ladies, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me today, and hope to have you back.
Well, thank you for having us.